Hi, welcome to this week's Sim Racing News Roundup, where we look at all of the news that has come to sim racing over the course of the last week. If you want to see more videos like this, please do subscribe to the channel, because that way you'll be able to get notified when the weekly update comes out, which is normally on a Friday. So, kicking things off, we have a couple of bits of news for RFactor 2. Now, first of all, there's been a load of new content that has dropped. One bit of it is free, which is the Caterham Academy, and then the rest is chargeable. The chargeable stuff is an Austin Mini Cooper S, which is basically the old school one. You can tell that because it's an Austin in there, and two BTCC cars. So we've got the Ford Focus ST, and we've also got the Hyundai i30N Fastback BTCC car in there. They're both next-gen touring car spec vehicles, so full BTCC compliant. As well as that, you also get the Worldwide Technology Raceway available as paid DLC. Now, I did mention all of this stuff as a coming soon last week, but it is here, and it's also landed with the Q3 update for RFactor 2, which has brought quite a few changes to the title as well as this new content drop. I'm not going to go through in this video exactly what's covered in it. I will leave a link to the review on the update and the content that I put out earlier this week, so you can go and take a look at that if you want to see more details about what's in this particular content drop and update. Moving on from RFactor 2, Redout 2 has had a patch hitting 1.1. Now, this, if you remember, is an anti-grav style arcade racer in the kind of bent of Wipeout without weaponry, just about going fast. I've not had a chance to play around with the update since it's come out. They put a new HUD in place on it, and apparently there's been a lot of performance optimizations to try and fix some of the performance issues around it. So I'm going to give that a go, because being perfectly honest, whilst I really enjoyed Redout, one of my issues with it was the fact that, being perfectly honest, it wasn't well optimized. It didn't run brilliantly, which was a bit of a shame. So I will have to revisit that and see where it is now. Moving on from Redout, we move to F1 22, which has had a small patch put out for it, absolutely tiny one, bringing it to 1.08, and all this does is rebalances the AI performance. That's it. That's all that's in the patch notes around this. It does say, after this patch, please anticipate an average decrease in career difficulty by 5. You may need to alter your game settings, your save game settings, for the best experience. So there we go. I'm still having issues with steering wheels on F1 22, and they've tweaked the AI difficulty. That's my problem, not anybody else's. Okay, moving on from that to Race League. So this is an interesting title that again is in early access, or not again, it is in early access and still requires quite a bit of work. So it's good to see that they are throwing out these small patches to constantly tweak things around it. Most of this is around crashes and controller issues and a few other bits and pieces. So nothing major in here as of yet. Right, so moving on to a biggie, RaceRoom has 3 pieces of news this week. So kicking things off, first of all, it's had an update. So this update is a fairly sizable one. Most of it appears to be around tracks. So it's adding sounds, tweaking some of the artwork and the AI and a few other bits and pieces around, pretty much by the looks of it, all of the tracks in the title. So there's a whole lot going on there. There's quite a bit of AI pace tweaking going on. As always, there's a link down to the patch notes down below. Go and take a look at that if you want to see some more detail around that. Now, in addition to that, 3 Gt3 Evo cars have been added to RaceRoom's GT3 class. Now, technically speaking, these are not new cars to the title, because these have all been previously in the DTM class across various years. So basically we've got the Ferrari 488 Evo has come from the 2021 DTM class. The Bentley Continental GT3 Evo has come from the ADAC 2020 series, and also come from DTM 2021 and ADAC 2020. We have the Mercedes-AMG GT3 2020 Evo. So these have been released with a whole load of new liveries around them. It is chargeable content, so if you've already got these in their relative ADAC or DTM classes, I think it's something like a 50% reduction on it, and as it's RaceRoom, you can pick and buy the liveries as you want. I picked all three up with all of the liveries, and I do own the base cars, and I think it cost me about £9, so it's not too bad in that regard. I'm a big fan of RaceRoom and I like supporting it, so I don't mind paying the money for it. And speaking of content for RaceRoom, they have put a tweet out saying that the new Formula RaceRoom X220 is just round the corner. So this is their take on a current generation Formula 1 car. Obviously they can't call it an F1 car because of licensing, but what we've basically got here, new model, physics and sound, ability to disable the halo, 3 tyre compounds, engine maps, regen, DRS and overtake, and a 30 plus liveries they're saying for it. Now, it isn't actually officially announced in the tweet, but if you also look, the circuit they're on is Zandvoort. So this does kind of hint that we're getting an updated version of Zandvoort in RaceRoom as well, which would be really nice to see. They've said there'll be more reveals on this in the coming days, so I'll have to keep an eye out for this one. So that's quite a bit of stuff coming to RaceRoom. But moving on from that, we have Automobilista 2, and there's a big dev post has gone up on Racer's forums, basically explaining what's coming at the end of August. So you may remember that the July update got postponed because there were some issues with it, and this is the big update that was supposed to contain all of the new physics models for all of the vehicles and a load of other stuff. So version 1.4 as it's called, and that was postponed, and they basically said they were going to join the July and the August roadmaps together, release at the end of August with version 1.4 and now the Racing USA Part 3. And that is indeed what is now going to happen. They've also detailed what was causing the issues with the delay, and that was around the oval racing and the desire to include full course yellows in there, which is really important to get in there for oval racing. Again, I'll leave a link down below for this because there's a hell of a lot of stuff in the update. I may even put together a separate video detailing it, so keep an eye out for that if I get time to do it. Moving on from Automobilista 2 into Gran Turismo, and we've got the news, and it's kind of one of these accidental pieces of news that slipped out, and that is IMSA's president, John Doohan. So those of you who don't know, IMSA is the International Motorsports Association, which is the organising body for sports car racing in the US and runs such events as the 24 Hours of Daytona. And they've said that GT7 is now part of its esport partners list, and they put together a list of their esport partners. So you've got some really weird ones in here, in all honesty. So we've got iRacing, we've got Forza, we've got Gran Turismo, we've got Grid, we've got Nitro Nation, which I must confess I've never heard of. I think it's probably a mobile title. We've got Real Racing 3, which I definitely know is a mobile title, and Project Cars 3. I must confess I didn't think anybody had Project Cars 3 on any sort of list like this still, but there you go. So nothing really more has come out of this yet. It's fairly recent, but I'll leave a link to it down below for you to go and have a look at. So it's kind of interesting in that regard. And that's all of this week's news, so just finishing things off with the mod content that you've been looking at. So car-wise, this is the Fun Cup UK mod. Now, I think I may have covered this quite a while ago, but this is version 1.06. It's basically, if you're unaware of it, the Fun Cars are a race design single-seater spec series that uses space frame chassis. They're powered by a 1.8 litre 130 brake horsepower VAG petrol engine. They feature sequential gearboxes, race brakes, and they're a silhouette formula, as you can see, designed to look a bit like a Beetle. And they're really good fun to race, and this is a nice updated version of that particular mod. The track is a little bit outside of their comfort zone. The Fun Cups have gone on holiday to South Africa, and I'm going to butcher this pronunciation, so I do apologise for that up front. This is the Zvort Cop Raceway, and it's version 0.9.5. Now, it's done by a modder called Prototype, who previously did an excellent version of Kyalama, and you can pick both this and the Kyalama mod up on Race Department. The interesting thing here is these are taken from scans, and he works with South African racing drivers and racing teams to actually hone these mods and make sure the tracks are really solid. And as a result, it's a great track. It's far more challenging than it looks. It's quite deceptive. It looks a little bit at first glance like a kind of Brands Hatch Indy kind of layout with a little bit more of a complex twist around it, but it is much more than that, and it's a really good challenging circuit, and the Fun Cup cars work well there. So I would strongly recommend, if you haven't done so before, checking out both of these mods. Well worth a look. And that's everything for this week's Sim Racing News Roundup. If you found the video useful, please do hit the like button, and as I mentioned at the start, if you want to know when these get released, please do subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to be notified, and that way you'll know when the weekly racing news comes out. In the meantime, thanks very much for watching. Take care, everybody, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.